Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the KVI studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And coming up this hour, Democrats boycott fraud hearings in Washington, D.C. Could it be they don't like what's being said about them and how they may have been involved? But before we get to any of that, my friends, time for one of the craziest daily doses of adrenaline I've ever heard of.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
This story was first reported by our friend Brandy Cruz about a dramatic power struggle Wednesday morning inside the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Washington after federal judges attempted to install their own interim U.S. attorney, only for President Trump to remove him less than an hour later. Apparently, Roger Rogoff, who is basically an Inslee appointee shill, was chosen by a group of activist federal judges, and he arrived at the U.S. Attorney's Office around 8 a.m. Wednesday, expecting to assume the role of interim U.S. attorney after being appointed by this group of federal judges. Approximately 30 minutes later, Rogoff received a phone call informing him that the White House had removed him from the position. As a result, Neil Floyd, President Donald Trump's nominee to serve as the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Washington, continues leading the office while awaiting Senate confirmation. Now, let's get into the legality of this for a second, because it's a little bonkers crazy. What happens is there's a provision of federal law governing vacancies in U.S. attorney positions. A July 8th letter from Chief U.S. District Judge David Estudillo to acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche informed the Justice Department that the court intended to appoint Rogoff effective July 15th. The letter cites 28 U.S.C. 546D, which allows a federal district court to appoint an interim U.S. attorney after an attorney general's acting appointment expires following 120 days, with the interim serving until a presidential nominee is confirmed by the Senate. Estudillo wrote, the court acknowledges the president's authority to appoint, with advice and consent from the Senate, a United States attorney for this district under 28 U.S.C. 54(1)A, and takes this action pursuant to Section 546D to ensure the vacancy is filled until a United States attorney nominee is confirmed. They said Rogoff is so qualified because he was a King County prosecutor supervising U.S. Assistant Attorney, King County Superior Court Judge, and Director of the Washington Office of Independent Investigations. However, as usual, this guy has deep ties to the Democratic Party. Former Governor Jay Inslee appointed Rogoff to the King County Superior Court in 2013. In 2022, Inslee selected Rogoff to become the inaugural director of the Washington Office of Independent Investigations, the state agency created to investigate police use of force incidents following the George Floyd riots that rocked the Evergreen State, and specifically Seattle, Washington, in 2020. The Office of Independent Investigations was established following a statewide police accountability legislation and is responsible for investigating deadly force incidents involving law enforcement agencies across Washington. So if he is an Inslee appointee, he is inherently biased. Now, why do they want to get rid of Neil Floyd so bad? Neil Floyd is fighting them on all their open border sanctuary state insanity. Let's not forget, it was legal actions by Nick Brown and Bob Ferguson that actually prevented border crossings from using footage of license plates to find out who was coming into the United States, and Neil Floyd had to find a workaround. We interviewed Neil Floyd in his office, and he told us a story about how he was supposed to meet with Katie Wilson to see how they could work together. He walked into an ambush where it wasn't just Katie Wilson, it was Bob Ferguson and Nick Brown and all their little minions trying to stop him from doing his job. And he said, guys, Can we just deal with the hardcore felons, the murderers, the rapists, the child molesters who are illegal aliens? They refuse to budge on anything because they claimed getting rid of them was a violation of Washington state sanctuary law, which, by the way, sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, that is a violation of federal law. You can't make a law to break the law. It doesn't work that way. Rogoff previously served as a supervising assistant U.S. attorney in the Western District of Washington before joining the King County Superior Court bench. While federal law gives district courts authority to appoint an interim U.S. attorney under circumstances, U.S. attorneys are executive branch officials who ultimately serve under presidential authority. The episode sets up a potentially significant constitutional dispute over the interaction between the judiciary's statutory authority to temporarily fill vacancies and the president's constitutional authority over executive branch officers. Section 546D authorizes courts to appoint an interim U.S. attorney when necessary. However, the appointment only exists until a presidential nominee is confirmed under 28 U.S.C. 541. Now, hang on a second. Why is this position empty? Well, here's what's going on. President Trump nominated Neil Floyd a while ago. He also nominated Pete Serrano a while ago. Yet they're both interim. Why? Because the Senate refuses to confirm them. And you say, hey, Ari, wait a second. Don't Republicans control the Senate? Yes. But there's this thing called the blue slip, a Judiciary Committee tradition that gives home state senators significant influence over nominees for U.S. attorneys and federal district court judges. So basically what it is let's say President Trump wants to appoint the U.S. attorney in Washington. Well, if the people of Washington, or the people who represent the people of Washington, or the people who claim to represent the people of Washington, have a huge objection to those people, it's meant for, hey, we know something you guys don't. We're not going to give the blue slip rather than do this. Unfortunately, that practice has been used politically like everything else in this world. So while it's meant for, like, for example, today, I found out something about a King County GOP nominee, or not nominee, a King County GOP endorsed candidate. And I go, guys, I don't know if you know about this. This person should not be endorsed by you. I gave them a day to deal with it. We will talk about that tomorrow if they don't. But you may not know about this. So in theory, it's meant for senators to say, hey, guys, you don't know about this. You don't know what we know. We're not going to put this guy forward. Instead, it's just been weaponized by the opposing party to go, hey, we're not going to appoint your guy because Donald Trump, orange man bad. Neil Floyd has an exemplary record. He is extremely qualified, and they don't want to appoint him because orange man bad. So they are withholding their blue slips. By the way, doing the same thing to Pete Serrano. So you have 120 days where it can be an interim position, and then somebody else takes the position or you reappoint the guy. Now, this is interesting because now that Rogoff was appointed by these judges and filled that job for, 30 minutes, an hour, does that mean that now that Trump fired him, he can reappoint Neil Floyd to the position and the clock starts again on the 120 days? So did the Democrats and these activist judges just help out President Trump in their radicalism, in their efforts to get rid of his nominee? Did they just give him another 120 days in office? Now, mind you, none of this should be happening right now. As chairman of the committee, Senator Chuck Grassley, who's a Republican, has the authority to determine how the committee applies the blue slip policy. Previously, Judiciary Committee chairmen have modified the practice over time, including treating it differently for various categories of federal nominees. But because the committee has continued to require favorable blue slips for U.S. attorney nominees, Floyd's nomination has remained pending without advancing to a confirmation hearing, setting the stage for the Western District of Washington Court to exercise its interim appointment authority under law. Rogoff's legal team is now preparing to challenge his removal, potentially setting up a court battle over the scope of a president's authority to remove a court-appointed interim U.S. attorney. Who's wrong in this case? Everybody. Everybody. This is an absolute mess. If the Senate did its job, you wouldn't have this problem. For now, Neil Floyd continues leading the Western District of Washington federal prosecutors while the legal and constitutional questions surrounding Wednesday's brief leadership struggle remain unresolved. Now, if the Senate did its job, none of this would have happened. The federal judges, on the other hand, who are all lefties, are trying to appoint an Inslee-appointed guy to fill this position because they are scared to death of Neil Floyd, is really what's going on here. However, Chuck Grassley and the Republicans in the Senate gave them the opening for this mess. Look at me, I'm being bipartisan. Everybody's in the wrong here, except for Neil Floyd and except for President Trump. Because President Trump said, here's my guy, appoint my guy. Senate says, we have this stupid custom, we're not going to change it. Sounds a lot like the filibuster. Says we have this custom, we're not going to change it. Is it law? No. Is it something that could be changed? Absolutely. And yet the Republicans in the Senate won't deal with it, so we have two interim U.S. attorneys, one in Eastern Washington, one in Western Washington. Neither of them have been confirmed by the Senate because Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell are playing political games. Would you call this a threat to democracy? Would you call this a subversion of democracy? Would you call this an insurrection? I don't want to hear any of those words from the left ever again. I don't want to hear it because this is the nonsense that these guys keep spewing. Oh, it's a threat to democracy. You're subverting the will of the people. Now, did the judges have the legal authority to do this? Absolutely. Absolutely, they did. They had the authority to do this. However, President Trump is supposed to appoint this guy. He did appoint this guy. And because of Maria Cantwell and Patty Murray, the Senate is not confirming him. What's the point of being in power if you let the other side dictate what's going on? Now, I understand the argument of the blue slips is that's like the filibuster. If you break it, what are the Democrats going to do the next time they're in power? Most people don't look at the blue slip practice the same way they look at what's going on with the filibuster and the Save America Act. That's not the same thing. Some people may equate the two. Most people had no idea what a blue slip thing was. Now, mind you, most of you in the audience, come on, you can admit it, you had no idea about this blue slip practice. Maybe you heard about it because they tried to pull the same thing when Trump nominated Joe Kent. Didn't work out for them so well that time, but I don't know, maybe they were in the right that time now that we know what we know about Joe Kent. But in this case here, this is not like the filibuster. And Seattle media may make a thing out of this because they want to make a thing out of this and they want to say Trump bad. Trump appointed a guy. You had two Washington senators who are trying to fight him, not because he isn't qualified, but because Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad is full Trump derangement syndrome. I'm reminded of Senator John Fetterman when he said, give the guy his nominees. Lindsey Graham gave Obama his nominees. That's what you do. You have advice and consent. You have no real argument for holding up Neil Floyd, aside from the fact that you don't like him. That's it. That is the only thing they have here, because he is too well qualified. That's what the problem here is. So who's in the wrong? Well, the judges are being activist judges, and Maria Cantwell and Patty Murray are being activist senators. They're not representing the will of the people. And what's happening? These judges are doing this because they're trying to help out Bob Ferguson, Nick Brown, and crew who want to continue violating the law by pushing their sanctuary state insanity. That's the summary of what happened today. Not the version you're going to hear from the Seattle Times, not the version you're going to hear from the mainstream media around here. Those are the actual facts. And I tried to present them as unbiased as possible. So the next time Somebody on the left says, January 6th, violent insurrection. You say they literally just tried an insurrection here in Washington because they don't like the president. They are trying to stop his nominees from being in office. That's it. It's that simple. You agree with me, you disagree with me, you give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, speaking of subverting democracy, this is a case we've been following for a while. A man has finally been charged after prosecutors say he stole a petition. He stole petition signatures from a woman collecting them for a ballot measure to repeal the state's newly enacted income tax as opponents continue a statewide effort to overturn the law. You might remember Benjamin Lee Brown, who has been formally charged in Pierce County with violating Washington's law regarding corrupt practices involving initiative and referendum petitions, fourth-degree assault, and third-degree theft. The charges are gross misdemeanors, punishable by up to 1 year in jail and a $5,000 fine. Do you remember this whole story? A woman was collecting signatures to repeal the income tax at a Safeway. This dude grabs the clipboard, walks away with it, tries to give it to Safeway employees, while the woman says, that's illegal, give them back. The man then knocks her camera out of her hands, knocks her phone out of her hands. This is all on video, gets in his truck and drives away. Prosecutors allege Brown asked to see the petition attached to the woman's clipboard, then refused to return it before walking into the grocery store. The woman told deputies Brown attempted to hand the petition sheets to a store employee. A video of the confrontation posted on social media allegedly shows a signature gatherer following Brown inside the store while demanding he return the clipboard. We played the clip for you a dozen times. According to prosecutors, Brown then appeared to strike the woman's phone while she was recording him. The woman continued following him into the parking lot, repeatedly asking for the petitions back before he drove away. Now, even though when he was arrested, he told the deputies from the Pierce County Sheriff's Office, thank God for Keith Swank, that this actually got pursued and this guy actually got arrested, they tried to find the missing signatures. They couldn't find it. He claims he dumped it on the side of a road or a field or something. They looked around. They couldn't find them. Brown was arrested on June 10th on suspicion of second-degree robbery before prosecutors later filed the current misdemeanor charges. Personally, for me, this is election tampering. This is election interference. I think this should be big boy charges. I think there should be federal charges on this. He waived his right to appear for the arraignment on July 23rd. Brown's attorney, James White, said to the News Tribune, the allegations have not been tested in court. Mr. Brown is presumed innocent. White also claimed that social media attention surrounding the case has led to safety concerns for Brown's family. Spare me your nonsense. Spare me your nonsense. Oh, people wrote some mean things about you online. Happens to me every single day. So, what is this about? Is it about the fact that the guy didn't like that somebody was gathering signatures, or he didn't like that they were gathering signatures to repeal the income tax? I think we can assume which direction this one was, right? Even though now his family's saying, no, he's really in favor of repealing the income tax. I don't believe you. If you didn't like that somebody was gathering signatures there, somebody on our side typically says, hey, you know what? Are you supposed to be here? Should you be doing this? And then when they say, I'm legally allowed to be here, here's the rules. They usually go, okay, all right. Maybe you have a thing with property rights. Fine, we can have that discussion. But haven't seen a lot of violence on our side regarding this kind of stuff yet. What have we seen on the left? People destroying these petition sheets, people assaulting the signature gatherers, people trying to run them down with their car. I'm going to assume I know what side this guy is on. We'll see when he actually testifies. We'll see when we have more of the court documents. But he didn't stop 511,408 signatures being given into the Secretary of State. They're being verified right now to put the repeal of the income tax on the ballot for November. I don't want to hear the left talk about subverting democracy ever again. I don't want to hear them talk about threats to democracy ever again. I'm tired of it. One side is violent, one side is radical activists, and the other side is trying their best to purge their party of the radical activists, while meanwhile the Democrats are going, yeah, you guys go, you're doing good work. You're doing good work. Oh, we just want to invite the Democratic Socialists of America into the big tent. I'm so tired of them saying it happens on both sides. I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing the radical activism on one side. You agree with me, disagree with me, give me a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, do you think this big push by King County prosecutors to arrest people who are committing retail theft will actually cut it down, or you think it's too little too late? We'll discuss when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Do you remember way back in 2018, 2019, things were going badly in Seattle, and it seemed like there was just crime everywhere. Oh, well, looks like not much has changed, except for maybe during the World Cup. And then this report comes out from a few organizations and the Seattle Attorney's Office, Ann Davidson at the time, saying the majority of crimes being committed in Seattle were being done by a group of 100 prolific offenders. Do you remember this insanity? Right. We all remember this, right? So my question has always been, why not arrest and prosecute the 100 prolific offenders? Now, this is like the broken windows thing in New York with Giuliani. What's broken windows? Let's do this one more time. If you have a building with a broken window and you don't fix it, eventually another window's going to get broken. Eventually there's going to be graffiti. People are going to stop mowing the lawn, and that's going to spread to the building next to it, and then you have urban decay. The idea is, if you make people fix the windows, or if you fix the window, you cut down on the small crimes, then you won't have so much of a problem anymore. And we go back to the squeegee men. And for those of you who don't live in New York, we don't really have that here in Seattle. What it used to be was you would get off the highway in New York. There are highways on the East Coast, not freeways, because they charge you highway robbery and tolls. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe we should rename the freeways here because they ain't free no more. That's why they were called freeways, by the way. They didn't have tolls. And now look at 405. Do I need to tell you any more about that? I digress. Anyway, you would be getting off the highway in New York, and some homeless-looking dude would come out with a spray bottle of nasty water and a dirty cloth, spray your windshield, and then block you from driving anywhere until you paid him. That is what the squeegee men were. And nobody wanted to deal with it. Nobody wanted to. So Giuliani and Cruz said the first thing we're going to do when he became mayor was go after the squeegee men. And they started arresting these guys and found out they had outstanding warrants. They had records for other things. They were prolific offenders. And what do you know? You started getting more and more people behind bars. So I wonder if these efforts by the King County prosecutor are too little too late. I'm not going to crap all over their efforts at arresting criminals. I'm not. I think it's a good thing they're arresting criminals. But I kind of wonder what took so long. And I kind of wonder if this is just a little bit a drop in the bucket or if we're going to see more of this. I'll leave judgment for later. According to Como News, 5 people charged in separate organized retail theft cases pleaded not guilty during arraignment hearings on Monday in King County Superior Court. The felony cases involve allegations of thefts tied to multiple retailers across King County, including Safeway stores in Bellevue and West Seattle, Nordstrom's at Bellevue Square, Ross Dress for Less in Lake Forest Park, and Lululemon store at University Village. Another case discussed Monday involves a suspect who allegedly told police she stole from Ulta Beauty to sell stolen items at 3rd Avenue and Pike Street in downtown Seattle. All 5 defendants entered not guilty pleas at their arraignments, and the cases are ongoing. King County prosecutors emphasized that organized retail theft is not the same as misdemeanor shoplifting. Organized retail theft cases are felonies handled by the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, while shoplifting cases are often referred by police as misdemeanor theft and are handled by the city attorney's offices. Okay. This is an important distinction. I'm actually going to come down on the side of the King County prosecutor on this one. So if shoplifting is a misdemeanor, because Democrats have done their best to make sure you can't actually enforce the law anymore, you can't actually prosecute anybody, and even if they do get prosecuted, they don't get sentenced appropriately, and even if they don't get sentenced appropriately, they almost never serve out the sentence. So what you're saying is, yeah, it was 100 or so prolific offenders, but if they kept getting charged with misdemeanors, they weren't being put away. They were just being sent back onto the street. Again, and again, and again, and again. Organized retail theft includes repeated thefts from the same businesses or multiple businesses when the value of what's taken reaches the felony threshold. Prosecutors say charges filed under the statute are often aggregated, meaning they can be based on multiple thefts by suspect, whether committed with accomplices or alone, and can reflect targeting of one specific business or multiple businesses. King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office said it saw a significant increase in felony retail crime case referrals from police investigators between 2021 and 2024, with its retail crimes caseloads more than doubling from 52 to 121, an increase of 132%. Now, if we had a fully funded police department, imagine how much more those cases would increase. So I'm glad that the King County prosecutor is doing all this. Where my skepticism comes from is, what took so long? We don't have enough police to keep doing this. And are the activist judges who just went out of their way to install a new U.S. attorney to subvert the will of the people, are judges like that, they're not federal judges handling these cases, but are judges like that just going to release these guys anyway? It's good that the King County prosecutor is doing their job. But will this be disrupted by the judges? Will this continue because we don't have enough cops? And if Katie Wilson doesn't like it, is she just going to tell the Seattle police chief, tell those cops to stop enforcing the law? This is the same cycle we deal with time and time and time again. Up next, my friends, Democrats in Washington, D.C. decide to boycott a hearing on rampant fraud and election fraud. Wonder why. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So today there was a hearing on Capitol Hill about fraud. Both the fraud with regards to federal funding, state funding, county funding, city funding, but also the fraud that we found in elections. So you would think that all these Democrats have been putting out these statements talking about how they are so anti-fraud would want to be there and actually want to ask Nick Shirley and James O'Keefe about what they have discovered. Instead, here's what happened.
Senator Scott.
Chairman, wouldn't a Democrat go next since the Republican just testified?
If there were a Democrat here, yes.
So there's no Democrats present at a hearing about fraud?
There doesn't appear to be a great deal of interest across the aisle.
Okay, so they say whatever they say about fraud and then they don't actually show up to the hearing. I wonder why that is. Here's Senator Josh Hawley.
Keith Ellison, that guy, after overlooking $250 million in fraud, he took $10,000 in campaign contributions from the very people who were committing the fraud, who came to see him in his office, asked him to please get state investigators off of their backs, which he did, asked him to shut down the investigations, which he helped with, offered to give him money, which he accepted. I mean, I think that's the answer to why can't any of these people find the fraud? Because they're getting paid by the fraudsters.
Okay. There's there's no way to sugarcoat that. There's no way to sugarcoat that. They intentionally shut down investigations. They're getting political kickbacks from the fraudsters. This has been documented. This is the kind of stuff that was going on. And what was their response to it? This is what they asked Nick Shirley.
You mentioned the Stop Nick Shirley Act. What is that? I mean, can you describe that in greater detail?
Yeah, so that's a bill that's been created by Mia Bonta, the wife of the Attorney General of California. And the official title is AB 2624, and it's to provide, make it essentially illegal to expose and to film outside of immigration support service providers. That means any entity that provides services to illegal migrants, whether that be healthcare or legal fees. If I were to go out and film a video in front of one of these locations, perhaps an NGO like Churla that's received over $80 million from the government, and they give me a piece of paper and they say, hey, you cannot publish that video. If that bill passes, it'll be illegal for me to.
So it really ought to be renamed the Protect Medicaid Fraudster Act.
I literally wrote an op-ed about how blue states, when they were confronted with fraud, went to protect the fraudsters by passing laws to target the people revealing the fraud. It wasn't just in California. It was in Ohio. It was also here in Washington. It was so many other places where Democrats, in response to this insanity, tried to penalize the people revealing the fraud. What other kind of fraud was being exposed? Here's James O'Keefe.
We also found next ballot petitioners asking homes to sign in other people's names. We recorded over the shoulder one petitioner who took out his phone to access an online database to pull voter rolls and addresses. Quote, I have an Idaho address, said the voter. The petitioner says, I'm going to give you an address to write. Your name is Robert. Another says, I'm giving you a new name. So he visited the residence of those people who were disenfranchised. One of the names was Vicky Walker. The homeowner at that address said for 9 years he received election mail in the name of this Vicky Walker. In fact, he told me he'd received so many ballots in the name of Vicky Walker, he named his cat Vicky Walker. We returned to ask for comment from the petitioner who was offering drugs in exchange for signatures. The same individual who had threatened us earlier, he grabbed the petitions and hid them in his car.
That's what the Democrats don't want to be talking about. They figure if they show up, it delegitimizes these hearings. There's video of all of this. Gavin Newsom said he was going to take all of this seriously. Yeah, I'm going to take it seriously. I'm going to investigate everything. Mm-hmm. Did he actually do it?
So this is a completely nonpartisan, non-political issue. Mayor Karen Bass, the LADA, and the governor of California did not criticize me. They actually put statements out saying this is outrageous and needs to be exposed.
So what's happened since
the Department of Justice is indicted, but nobody in the state of California has yet arrested or prosecuted these people.
And what's Gavin Newsom done?
Put out a statement condemning the stuff that we exposed in the tape. That's it.
So doesn't he have investigation authority?
He does in the state of California.
Doesn't Karen Bass?
She does.
And is it against the law?
It is. It's a state crime, fraudulently putting someone else's name on the California ballot petition.
So, for those of you thinking, well, the feds are going after them, what's the big deal? They should be hit with not just federal charges, but state, county, and city charges as well regarding their election laws. But now we know why Gavin Newsom isn't going to do anything about it. Here's what he said earlier today.
This was all after trying to purge our voting rolls. Had we not sued, that would have happened. This guy is not screwing around. That's the playbook on the other side. What's Thursday night's primetime speech all about? It's part of the playbook to cast doubt, anxiety, to set up the terms of the debate that will occur in and around next year's elections. We will see masked men in and around those elections. We'll see the intimidation of the voting strategies. We've seen it on vote by mail, suggesting somehow voting by mail, as the senator rightfully suggests, somehow that is corruption in plain sight.
So, wait, hang on. You think securing elections is corruption? 2 days ago, Democrat Senator Elisa Slotnick said the quiet part out loud. And this is what it's all really about, and this is why the Democrats didn't show up today.
The other thing that we blocked yesterday was the SAVE Act, right? Which was allow this administration to rig our democracy so that it would be hard for any Democrat in any state to win any election.
Hang on. So you think that voter ID will make it hard for any Democrat in any state to win an election? Why does voter ID cause that problem? Hang on, it's coming to me. Why would that create a problem? That's a head scratcher right there. Can't imagine why you guys don't want voter ID and why you're so opposed to it. Oh, by the way, House managed to attach the SAVE Act to a bill they just passed. It's going to the Senate. Might be able to get the SAVE Act through reconciliation. That might be the way it's going right now. Up next, my friends, I've never been a big fan of Little House on the Prairie, but apparently the left really hated Little House on the Prairie, and they're releasing a new woke version. Kevin's an expert on Little House on the Prairie. He's going to tell us all about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Lots of kids my age, there were 2 shows that when the credits came on, you changed the channel. One was MASH. As soon as you saw and that helicopter, I'm like, nope. Where's something else? Nope, not watching that. Get out of here.
I can agree with you on that one. I remember that happening quite often. You're waiting to see what's up next, and you're right.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
no.
Where's Gilligan's Island?
Yeah.
Gilligan's Island used to be on at this time. What is
Where's
this?
Knight Rider? Give
Yeah,
me something else. Give me Miami Vice. Give me something. I don't want this show my parents watch. Meanwhile, if you're unlucky enough to have a parent in the room, don't change that. It's MASH.
Well, I'll tell you, even going further on that, I remember staying at my grandparents in PL, Washington. I'd go down and stay for a week every summer, me and my brother.
Yeah.
And my grandparents, and I'm like, at some point, 12, 13, getting close to being in high school. And when MASH would come on, they're like, got to leave the room. This ain't for kids. And I'm like, what?
I never got that.
It was my grandparents. They didn't understand, like, Grandma, Grandpa, I've seen reruns of this. I have no interest in watching this.
Yeah.
I know you think it's adult themed, but
you also don't have to kick me out because I'm going to leave anyway because that show sucks.
Right.
Now, I know our older audience is like, heretics. You're heretics.
Yeah.
It was the greatest show ever. You will never understand. Later in life, I kind of appreciate what it is. Still not for me. Okay?
Yeah, I'm guessing if I sat down to give it a watch now, I'd probably appreciate it.
Yes, I agree that that's probably the case. It's probably one of those things when you get older. But when you're a kid, where's the talking car? I want the talking car.
Okay, let's get down to brass tacks here. So the other show that you would change when it came on.
Okay. Was Little House on the Prairie. Sorry, dude. I know my wife said the same thing. She's like, how could you not love Little House on the Prairie? I'm like, sorry. Not my jam. I want the talking car. If there's a talking car or some dude working on the prairie, I want my talking car.
How old are we talking here for you at this point?
I'm 5 years younger than you.
Yeah, so how old were you when you were like,
All I wanted was the talking car.
Yeah, how old were you, do you think?
Well, let's see. Already by then, so by the time I was old enough to appreciate any of this, Knight Rider's already in reruns. Little House on the Prairie's been in reruns or whatever for years. But it was the age where everything was in reruns, right? So you filled the day with the syndicated content.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And that's the stuff that's on.
So
Summer Vacation, I don't know, 10, 11 or something like that.
So your tastes haven't changed since you were 10 or 11 pretty much.
I agree.
You're like, when we go to a movie, it's like, is there a robot? Is there a talking car in this? Like, I don't want to see it. Yeah, okay.
I agree with you. Nothing has changed. I'm an overgrown child. We can all admit this, right? We all understand this. Well, Netflix is rebooting Little House on the Prairie. Now, I haven't seen it yet because I don't plan to. But what's coming out about it, and I might watch a few episodes to see if this is the kind of thing where the conservative media is making a bigger deal out of it than it actually is, which we have documented before. That whole thing with Top Gun Maverick turned out to be a nothing burger. According to the Post Millennial, Netflix's new Little House on the Prairie reboot is drawing attention after its showrunner said the series intentionally rejects traditional depictions of the American West, arguing that popular culture has overemphasized masculinity and gunfighting while overlooking the role women played. Okay. Now, let me break this down for a second. I don't think anybody's saying women weren't tough out on the prairie, but to say overemphasize the masculine role, there was gunfighting, there were Indian fights, there was a whole bunch of hardy male stuff out there. That's what the West was. That's what this country was. Now you're going to whitewash it?
Not to mention there was traditional men and women roles that just were of its time.
Of its time.
I know you're making this thing now in 2026.
Right.
And you'd like to pretend that that wasn't the case back then, but it was the case back then.
Right. The Indians didn't identify as cisgender or whatever else it was that they were fighting with for the West.
By the way, we're going to run out of time here, but I loved watching Little House on the Prairie reruns when I was a kid. Loved it.
So,
Half Pint, Pa, El Monzo, Mr. Edwards, come on.
I don't know what any of that means, but for you, Kevin, I will give the show, as Mike says, its day in court. Lots more to discuss, including how Bob Ferguson's economic numbers are out and Washington's in serious trouble. I'm not the only one saying it. Give you all the horrifying details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the KVI studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, you guys asked me to look into why Bob Ferguson is requiring students to apply for FAFSA before actually graduating high school, and I did. But before we get to any of that, my friends, it is your chance to take the trip or keep the cash. You guys should be old pros at this by now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a word. You text that word to the number I give you, and you will be entered for your chance to win a Mississippi River cruise or $3,000 in cold, hard cash. Today's word is dock, D-O-C-K, as in I brought the river cruise boat to the dock, as in I stepped off the boat onto the dock. Not Doc Brown, not that kind of doc, not short for doctor, D-O-C-K. Text the word dock to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757 for your chance to win. Thank you to our in-house Pink Floyd cover band for always showing up to give us the right mood music for our contest. Switching gears back to things that are happening here in Washington, you're going to need that money, my friends. You really, really are. It was bad news after bad news after bad news for Turd Ferguson, Democrats, and the Washington economy today. I'm going to give it to you in the order I got it, based on the emails I got from different Washington agencies and different federal agencies. Now, mind you, this is not Trump administration stuff. A lot of these are Bob Ferguson's own agencies warning us, telling us about this. Washington's unemployment rate remains stuck at 5.2% in June. That is significantly above the 4.2% national rate. And the only reason it isn't higher than that is because of government hiring and the World Cup. That's the only reason why. New data from the Washington Employment Security Department. That is not the Washington, D.C. Security Department. That is the Washington State Employment Security Department. Showed the unemployment rate remained unchanged for the third consecutive month. It's also sharply higher than 4.5%, which was recorded in June of 2025, which is exactly a year ago. Over the same 12-month period, Washington lost 1,200 jobs, even as the state added an estimated 54 positions in June. Government accounted for 4,000 of the 5,400 jobs added, while the private sector gained only 1,400, and that wasn't enough to offset the losses because we are still down net 1,200 jobs. Do you know what this reminds me of? Kevin, you might remember this. When Joe Biden was in office, I kept saying, guys, these unemployment numbers are off. These unemployment numbers are really, really off. Now, for there to be a recession, you have to check several boxes. Inflation, unemployment, there's a few boxes you have to check. And the one box that wasn't getting checked by the Biden administration for an actual recession were the unemployment numbers. We used to have our friend Batya Ungar-Sargon on the show to argue this kind of stuff with us during the friendly face-off before she moved a little bit more to the right and we started agreeing on too many things. Now she's over on News Nation. You should watch her show. It's really good. But what would happen was she would say we're not in a recession. And I would say we are in a recession because what happens is every month they release the unemployment numbers, and every month after that they revise the previous month, and they are always worse than they were the month before. And all the hiring that's being done is the government to inflate those numbers so that way you don't have a recession. We used to argue this all the time. That is exactly what Bob Ferguson seems to be doing, whether accidentally or intentionally, whether he just likes hiring government workers, which he does, or whether it's just, well, we're going to do this purposely, hire more government workers so the unemployment numbers are not as bad. Now, where did the jobs get gained in the private sector? And Obama played this game as well. Among private employers, the strongest growth came from leisure and hospitality, which added approximately 3,200 jobs, including 3,500 in restaurants and bars. Stop. Why did restaurants and bars need more people in June? Anybody know why? Does anybody want to guess? What was coming in July? Oh, right, the World Cup at the end of June and July. So all those restaurants and bars that have not been having a big influx of people were hiring for the World Cup because they expected tons of money from the tourists. I know that preliminary numbers are out on the World Cup, but I haven't seen them reconciled. For example, let's say your restaurant usually makes $100,000 a month. Let's just throw that out there as a nice round number. And for the World Cup, you doubled that and made $200,000 a month for the month. Well, did you actually make that money, or did you have to buy more beer that you weren't able to sell? Did you have to hire more staff? Did you have more costs? Did you have to buy more chairs, more outdoor seating? Did your costs exceed what you brought in? We don't know yet. I would love to see those numbers. In fact, I should write down that I should be in touch with the Downtown Seattle Association to ask them that question. I should be in touch with them. Professional and business services shed 3,800 jobs in June, while manufacturing lost another 1,300. Wouldn't it be nice if Janicki was still here? Wouldn't it be nice if Janicki wasn't expanding all those jobs out to Montana? Those are manufacturing jobs, right? I mean, I know they still have a base here, but 2,000 jobs going to Montana as opposed to here. That would have offset your loss of 1,300 jobs, don't you think? Employment services alone declined by 2,500 positions. Governor Bob Ferguson literally yesterday was talking about the CNBC study, talking about how great Washington is. You know what? I looked at the numbers behind that study because remember I said there's no actual numbers in here, and there really aren't. When you dig into it deeper and deeper and deeper, there's a couple of numbers, but they're fluff. So what did they weight with more power? You're going to love this. How beautiful the environment is around here. And look, I'm not going to disagree with that. Yesterday, I was having a bad day. So what happens? I called my wife, and I said, sweetie, when I get home today, I just want to go on the boat. I want to go for a swim, and I want to get some drinks. Can we do that? And she said, that sounds lovely. Let's do that. So we took the boat. We drove across Lake Washington, went to get some drinks, sobered up by swimming in the lake, and then drove back. And you know what? I felt instantly better because you could see the mountains and you could see Mount Rainier, and it was a sunny day, and the lake was relatively warm, and it just felt great. Just felt wonderful. Yeah, we always have that going for us. We really do. But if you look at some of the other numbers about how businesses actually feel about Washington, well, we're second to the bottom in a lot of these categories, but we're being propped up by Mount Rainier and the environment. As I said, there was nothing scientific about this study at all, but Bob Ferguson's like, look how well we're doing. Woo, we're the best. Do you remember a few months ago we reported how we were on the verge of a recession? How Washington might already be in a recession? Well, now you've got the unemployment numbers, and they're bad. They're really, really bad. Also, Microsoft laying off thousands of people. Amazon laying off thousands of people. Meta laying off thousands of people. Oracle laying off people. Seattle area tech layoffs have exceeded 20,000 jobs. I think it's actually closer to 30 to 40,000 jobs, especially with what's going on with Starbucks leaving town. So this number is bad. This number is bad, and it's stagnating. Wait a second, stagnation. Didn't somebody warn us about stagnation in an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal? Oh, right. Howard Schultz literally published that op-ed 2 days ago. Do you think he maybe have seen these numbers before other people did and was warning about the stagnation? Because that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what it is. This is all kinds of bad news. This is really, really terrible. Okay, but Ari, that's just one study. You know what? You're right. From Como News. Inflation in the Seattle-Tacoma-Bellevue metropolitan area remained among the highest in the nation in June, with consumer prices climbing 4.5% over the past year, the largest annual increase among major metropolitan areas in the western United States, second highest nationally, according to new data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. How does the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics calculate the number? Well, they use the Consumer Price Index. So let's pull up the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics before you all say, well, it's Trump and the U.S. Bureau for Labor Statistics. The Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers for Seattle-Tacoma-Bellevue advanced 1.0% for the 2 months ending in June of 2026. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today, Regional Commissioner Chris Rosenlund noted that the index for all items less food and energy increased 0.9%. The food index increased 1.2%, and the energy index rose 1.5%. Okay, why are food and energy getting more expensive? Does anybody know why? Does anybody want to take a guess? Because they usually rise at a similar rate as they did in this study right here. What's been going on since, about 2-3 years ago? What's been going on? Why are energy and food more expensive? Oh, wait a minute. Taxes. Governor Bob Ferguson, Governor Jay Inslee, the Climate Commitment Act. So when you add 50 cents per gallon of gas, never mind what diesel costs these days, guess what? That's going to raise your energy costs and things get more expensive. It also affects your utility rates. Those get more expensive. It also affects your groceries and anything you buy because all that stuff comes on a truck or a boat to get here. Now it's more expensive. The Seattle area items CPIU increased 4.5% in the 12 months ending in June. The index for all items less food and energy increased 3.5% over the year. Food prices advanced 3.5%. Energy prices increased 20.7%. So if you think things are more expensive, yeah, they are. Thank you, Bob Ferguson. Really do appreciate that. You and the Democrats, you guys did this. Now, what are they going to do? Who are they going to blame? You ready for this? Trump. That's not what these numbers are showing me. Look, is gas more expensive? Absolutely. Is part of that because of the war in Iran and the Hormuz Strait and everything else? Absolutely. But you should be asking yourself a question. Gas is more expensive nationally. It fell down. It went back up, depending on what's going on in the Middle East. But why is our gas $1.33 more expensive than Idaho? Why is our gas more expensive than Oregon? Why is our gas more expensive than anybody? And it keeps coming back to the fact of this ridiculous Climate Commitment Act and all the taxes the Democrats have put on us, including the one that just went into effect to combat inflation, which is going to raise the gas tax every single year, commensurate with inflation. I forget, are we the number one gas prices in the country or the number two? I lose track. It's usually us, California, or Hawaii. And the last time I checked, we were number two. So, inflation's up in Seattle, Tacoma, and Bellevue. I wonder why that is. In fact, worse than that, we have now beaten New York City. That's right, my friends. Our inflation is higher than Zoran Mamdani's New York City. Way to go, Katie Wilson. Woo! Well done. You have out-socialismed the socialist. Well done. Well done, Bob Ferguson. You don't even call yourself a socialist, and you did all this. Now, simultaneously to all this, there is a new poll out. This is a survey conducted by Signal, Cygnal, for the Concerned Taxpayers Accountability Center between May 13th and 15th. It found 54% of likely general election voters believe Washington is on the wrong track. Oh, you think? Compared to 37% who say the state is headed in the right direction. Who is this 37%? My guess is unions and all these workers Bob Ferguson is hiring? Democrats. My guess is that's who it is. Now, mind you, it's not Democrats in the state. How do I know that? Democrats outnumber Republicans 60 to 40%. So if 54% are saying Washington's heading in the wrong direction, that means a lot of Democrats are saying it's heading in the wrong direction. 39% said the state is definitely on the wrong track, while 3% said it is definitely heading in the right direction. That's Bob Ferguson and the Democrats in the Washington State Legislature. The poll also found Ferguson underwater with voters. 49% of respondents held an unfavorable opinion of the governor, compared to 39% who view him favorably. That's the fraudsters are thrown in there too, giving him a net approval rating of minus 10 points. The strongest finding is centered on the income tax Ferguson signed into law earlier this year. Voters opposed the tax by a margin of 67% to 21%, with nearly 60% saying they strongly oppose it. Now, before you all go out there celebrating, after the voters, the people taking the poll, were given the arguments for and against the income tax using the Democratic talking points, that number actually went down a little bit, with some of them supporting the income tax. So before all of you go, oh, we got this in the bag, we don't even have to campaign, you want to know why Turd Ferguson did his big kickoff about keeping the income tax and trying to stop the repeal efforts? Because they've seen polls like this too. And they know that if they keep using their talking points, they might actually gain some ground. Now, what's fascinating was during this announcement yesterday, where Bob Ferguson is out there taking questions from the media about his effort to keep the income tax. He was asked this question.
Are you committing to veto additional revenue in the upcoming legislative session?
Yeah, right. Well, I appreciate you're asking what I would do about 8 months from now or whatever it is. What I'm focused on is proposing the budget that I propose. That's what I control. That's what I do. That's what I'm focused on. So I'm going to, if I can just finish, I heard the question, if I can finish, if that's all right. What I'm going to do is propose a budget that does not raise taxes. I'm having meetings with legislators where I'm being very clear about what my expectation is for taxes this coming session, because there has been a lot of taxes, billions of dollars in taxes raised in the past couple of years. So that's going to be something that's going to be important to me, that I'm communicating directly to legislators rather than here in a press conference. Legislative session hasn't even started yet. Happy to take those questions once we get going legislative session. But
well, he didn't answer the question. He was asked if he would commit to vetoing any tax increases. Instead, we got a word salad worthy of Kamala Harris of excuses. It's real simple, Bob. Will you veto any tax increases? Yes or no? And he wouldn't answer the question. He wouldn't answer the question. The guy who signed into law the largest tax increase in Washington state history, this is a guy who did this after saying we couldn't tax our way out of it. What do you think his answer would be? The guy who signed the largest tax increase in Washington state history, after promising not to raise taxes and saying we couldn't tax our way out of it, and then the following legislative session, signing the income tax into law and celebrating it after saying we couldn't tax our way out of it. Why do you think he won't commit to vetoing any other tax increases? Because he plans on pushing for more tax increases. Most notably, if they win the fight over the income tax, you know what happens right after that? Well, you know what? A lot of the millionaires left. So now it's going to be people who make $750 a year. Now it's going to be people who make $500,000 a year. That's a lot of money, right? Now it's going to be people who make $250 a year. Now it's going to be people that make $100 a year. Now it's going to be people that make $50 a year. Now it's going to be anybody who makes any amount of money whatsoever. Give us your money. This poll shows that people know an income tax is bad, and in traditional Washington fashion, just as Washingtonians have done 10 times at least in the past, maybe even 11, they have voted against an income tax. They know Bob Ferguson is coming for their money, and this is why Bob Ferguson is unpopular. And the fact that the Democrats continue raising taxes, they are killing the golden geese by chasing away our tech sector by chasing away the jobs, which is why you have the awful unemployment numbers. And their taxes are creating the massive inflation that they are blaming Donald Trump for. This is Bob Ferguson's mess. And we have already been warned that Washington is at risk of a recession or in a recession already. This is Bob Ferguson's economy. He can blame Donald Trump all he wants. This isn't Donald Trump's fault. This is all on Turd Ferguson. Up next, my friends, ICE locally has been catching the worst of the worst in Washington. Yet Democratic lawmakers are still trying to stop them from doing their jobs. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570, KBI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to subscribe to our podcast on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Also, don't forget to rate and share so your friends and strangers can get in on all the fun. Don't listen to podcasts? Go subscribe anyway. Give us the algorithm. Give us the analytics. We'll take it happily. Now, before we get to the story I planned on talking about, got some breaking news for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI, breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
I just got this notification from Let's Go Washington that the Washington Secretary of State notified Let's Go Washington that the initiative to repeal the income tax has been certified for November's ballot. With a validity rate of 82.3%, IP 645 had more than enough valid signatures to get the measures in front of voters. As part of the verification process, the Secretary of State conducts a statistically reliable review of submitted signatures to confirm that the initiative has met the legal threshold for certification. The validity and efficacy of the process has been touted by Washington state officials, elected officials, and the Secretary of State himself. Let's Go Washington supporters observed the process as it was conducted. Now, you may say to yourself, why are there so many non-valid signatures? Oh my God, the left will try to make, are they bots? Were they bots? No. You know what it is? Let's take me, Ari Hoffman. I know I signed it for sure. I know I signed it. But did I really remember to sign it? I don't know. Did I sign it? I accidentally signed it twice. Okay, no, I did not. But that's something that could happen to somebody else. I know where and when I signed that initiative. There's a picture of it, actually, at the first signing event that we had in Bellevue with Let's Go Washington. I think I was standing next to Brandy Cruz when we did that. So that one right there, we know that's some of it. Some people just like, I don't remember if I signed it, I'll do that. Some signatures, not legible. Not legible. Some people can't verify their information. This kind of stuff happens. No, it doesn't mean they're bots. 82.3%, that is huge. That is absolutely huge. That happens in every single election. Brian Haywood, founder of Let's Go Washington, said in a statement, "We're grateful for the dedication of the Secretary of State's office to ensure that hundreds of thousands of signatures gathered are validly counted. Today's verification process proves that Washingtonians will have their voice heard this November, no matter how hard Jamie Peterson and Bob Ferguson work to keep them out of the process. We are proud to lead the fight to protect families and small businesses from Olympia, expanding their state income tax on all Washingtonians. We'll continue setting the record straight, exposing the misinformation, making sure voters understand that voting yes on I-645 will protect benefits for families, protect their wallet, hold lawmakers in Olympia accountable for their reckless spending." This is a very important thing. When I-645 is on the ballot, you're going to have a choice, yes or no. You vote yes to repeal the tax. If you vote no, that's a no on repealing the tax. They do this to confuse you. You think to yourself, no, I don't want the taxes. You have to vote yes to pay less. You have to vote yes to save. You vote yes on I-645. They also know that Republicans love voting no on things. No to taxes, no to changes, no to anything. Vote yes, pay less on I-645, which is the income tax. Meanwhile, ICE released a few announcements. An ICE Homeland Security investigation probe resulted in a 27-year prison sentence for a dangerous repeat offender pedophile who preyed on children, coercing young girls to produce child pornography for him. Corbett Lloyd Craig, 42, of Goldendale, Washington, targeted his victims on social media and enticed them with money. Craig pleaded guilty to 2 counts of enticement, attempted enticement of a child, 1 count of possession of child sexual abuse materials. Judge Mary Catherine Dimke ordered him placed on a lifetime supervised release following his lengthy prison term. This is why we have McNeil Island, by the way, to keep these sickos out of our society. And it's the Democrats who are releasing people from McNeil Island. Worse than that, Democrats are saying they don't want to pass bills like the Laken Riley Act to stop this insanity that these illegal immigrants are doing and that the Democrats are encouraging. Representative Pramila Jayapal, Democrat from Gaza, said this on MS Now, MSNBC. What are they calling themselves these days? She said this earlier today.
And I do, I take this back to some of the first bills they put on the floor last year. I remember whipping like crazy, including, frankly, on our side around Laken Riley. And I said the plan here is to take away all due process for immigrants, because that's what that bill did. That's what a series of bills that they put on the floor after that did, is they said, we're just going to get rid of due process for crime after crime after crime, or alleged crime after crime after crime.
What? Do you hear what she's saying? So, the illegal aliens who are not U.S. citizens, she's fighting for rights for them, not for the people who were killed by the illegal aliens like Laken Riley. Like Trooper Christopher Gadd, the Washington State Patrol trooper who was killed by an illegal alien while just sitting in a speed trap on the side of a freeway. People like Pramila Jayapal are on the side of the criminals. They are not on your side. Insane. Absolutely insane. Can we get a real challenger for her one of these days? Please, somebody with a pulse, go head to head with her. Maybe give her a real challenge. She's going to coast through this election victory. It's a real disappointment. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. Up next, we give you a lot of problems, but we have a solution to help deal with the drug crisis that you can help us out with. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. I was just telling our next guest before we started the segment that we're all about fire and brimstone and yelling and screaming about what's wrong in the world. It's not often we can actually help with one of the solutions. Sure, I present solutions all the time, but in this case, there is something practical that we can do to help fix the crisis that is happening on our streets. Joining us now on the KVI studio line from The More We Love, Christine Moreland. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, Ari. I always appreciate being on your show.
We always love having you. You're one of the few people on the streets, on the ground, who is actually dealing with the drug crisis on our streets. And you guys have a new project. But before you talk about your new project, if you wouldn't mind, can you share with us what happened with your personal story about getting out of that life? Because I've heard bits and pieces of it, but I don't think our audience knows it and doesn't know how success can be turned into helping other people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the real root of this is I always say I have been an expert in this space of doing the work all my life because I come from it, right? My father was homeless, addicted. I have been in and out of the world, of violence and drug trafficking and what have you. And I think the most important thing is finding your purpose, your passion. And at 20 years old, I found that when I stepped out on an outreach van and started serving the people who I was part of a community of, right?
Yeah. And now what you're doing is you're raising money for a van for you guys so you can go help more people. Tell us, this is more than a van. Right. It's really like a rescue mobile to save people. Tell us what you guys do with these things.
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing is I look at it as a reflection and a ripple effect. 25 years ago, I stepped out on the Union Gospel Mission van, and it became my purpose. And I spent thousands of nights going out on these vans and helping, rescue people, bring people to resources, help connect them to real support. And that's what we do now every day through The More We Love. The last 4.5 years, we have been the hands and feet on the street, really connecting the most vulnerable, who are our women and children, getting them out of the encampments, getting them off of Aurora, and getting them into detox treatment, reunification, back with family. And we have been using our own personal vehicles to do this outreach work, and we are looking to now procure our own van, be able to put The More We Love on the side and help support more individuals and be more of a ripple effect and get more volunteers out there, right? If we can get more groups of people out, we do better in numbers.
Now, I follow you on social media, but not everybody in our audience follows you on social media. Give us some. I agree. I agree 100%. Plus, also, it's a lot of stuff you can yell at Democrats about. Look what you guys caused. But
yeah.
But also, you look at this, and you have some stories that just pull at the heartstrings. Tell us about saving kids, saving women, saving people from this life.
I think the thing is for us is we don't just put a Band-Aid on it or check a box or put them behind a closed door. We create real intentional pathways out of the life or the crisis that brought people, there. We have a young woman who just came to us, 15-year-old son, came out of homelessness. They were sleeping on a park bench, and now she is working at Google and housed in her own apartment. I mean, we just have to believe in the people that we support, oftentimes more than they do, but we have to use our tools, and our relationships to be able to give them opportunity. And when that opportunity is something like employment and it's something they can be proud of, we see success after success. We have a partnership with Mike Dunn over at Dunn Lumber, and he employs the women who come through our program. And we have a young woman there named Shay who's employed. She's coming out of the criminal justice system. She's coming out of human trafficking, and she is proud of herself every day, putting on a Dunn Lumber shirt and going to work, right? It's something she said really impacted me, and some people might think it's funny, but she said, I went from packing guns and drugs to packing lunches, and we want to put that on T-shirts.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I talk about all the time how there hasn't been a family that hasn't been affected by this stuff. And let me just share a little bit of my personal story so everybody can understand this. Is a relative of mine, I won't say which one, died suddenly. I knew this relative had been in and out of rehab, and people in my family will not admit what happened to this individual, but I think it's the worst kept secret in the world what likely happened to this individual. And this was a person who had an injury, had to get some surgeries done, and then got addicted to painkillers, and it just went downhill that way. So when we talk about this, right, as it goes, I mean, people think, oh, they just got into drugs and we're doing it recreationally. No, oftentimes it's a lot of this kind of stuff. So, Christine, your work is so,
families too.
Exactly. Your work is so important. If people want to contribute, if people want to help you get this van so you can save more people, give everybody the way they can do it.
Yeah, you can certainly send me an email. It's Christine at themorewelove.org with a K, or you can visit our website at www.themorewelove.org. We are the ripple effect, and we are the community constant. We want to keep going, so thank you.
And I also said this on air before, is that if we can come up with enough money, maybe we can go talk to our friends over at certain car dealerships that everybody knows we work with, and maybe we'll be able to help you out with something like that, okay?
Incredible. Thank you, Ari. Thank you for your heart for the work that we do. It really matters to me.
It's the least I can do when you guys are out in the field every single day. That's Christine Moreland from The More We Love. Check out their website. And if you feel inspired to give, please do so they can help more people. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. A lot of you reached out to me with a question about Turd Ferguson's latest proposal, which is requiring that parents have to fill out FAFSA and WASFA, basically the forms you need to get scholarships for college and such and get government funding for college, or opt out in order for their kid to graduate high school. And a lot of you said, Ari, what is going on here? Why would he mandate this? Why would he require this? And what I said to a lot of you who reached out to me, I said, give me a day or two to investigate this because something doesn't smell right. Let's go to the announcement first. Today, Governor Bob Ferguson announced his next major legislative proposal, requiring all high school seniors to complete the free application for federal student aid, known as the FAFSA, or its state equivalent, in order to graduate from high school or opt out. This will be governor request legislation in the upcoming legislative session. Governor Ferguson announced his proposal at a press conference at Highline College in Des Moines, which serves the most diverse higher education student population in Washington. Highline students represent more than 120 cultures and approximately 75% identifying as students of color. More than half are first-generation college students who benefit from this funding, unlocked by the FAFSA grant. Video of the event is available, blah, 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 blah. Washington is among the most generous states in the nation for funding college and job training. Approximately half of Washington families qualify for free money. Yet our state has consistently ranked near the bottom for completing the application required to unlock this free money. In response, last September, Governor Ferguson launched his Washington Completes FAFSA campaign. Since that time, Washington has jumped 7 places in the national rankings for FAFSA completion from 47th to 40th. That translates to approximately 4,700 more high school seniors completing the FAFSA this year compared to last year. Washington's FAFSA completion rate is 51%. To improve further, Washington needs a statewide policy to match its commitment to helping students reach their goals. A growing number of states are adding the FAFSA to their graduation requirements. Of the top 5 states for FAFSA completion, 3 require the FAFSA to graduate. In Washington state, a small number of districts are beginning to implement this requirement themselves. Those districts are achieving much higher FAFSA completion rates than the rest of the state. Okay, so what's his play? I've heard everything. What's his play? Well, this is about the income tax. This is going to how he's going to find out how much money you actually have if you're lying on your taxes. No, I don't think that's it. You know why? If you're lying on your taxes, you're probably going to lie on this form too. So let's be real about that for a second. I don't think it's that. Originally, that was my first thought. Second of all, I don't know if the feds share that information with Washington. Now, though Washington has its own grant programs, and that may be a way they're going to do it, why would a person not lie to Washington as well? No, I think this is something entirely different. What happens is a lot of people don't know they're eligible for state-funded brainwashing. I'm sorry. That's really what it is. A lot of people don't know they can get the funding for college, and if they get you into college, you're now going to be part of the indoctrination machine. This is playing the long game. That's my opinion. Now, I do have some calls out to actually the people who run FAFSA to ask them if they share that data with the state. If they share that data with the state, then his play is, yeah, we want to find out how much these people actually make. But then again, I go back to if you're lying on one, you're going to lie on another, right? There are other ways to get your tax information. There are other ways to get your tax information. They have a lot of your files here in Washington State Department of Revenue. They do have that. So I'm not sure they need to do that to get those actual numbers. What I think it actually is they want more people in college, and for all the wrong reasons. They're emphasizing the college angle of this. There is the trade school angle of this, where you can get a scholarship to trade school. You 100% can. Then they think you're going to be so grateful to the government, you'll become a good dues-paying union member and vote Democrat or support the Democrats the rest of your life. Either way, in my opinion, what I think is happening here, and I think Bob Ferguson's play is, if you get them in there on the government dime, they will be thankful to the government, and in the future, they will want to fund the government with more tax money. These are not free grants, by the way. You are paying for them through your taxes right now. This is what I think it is. But you let me know if you agree or disagree. You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. I will say, I have a kid of college age. I have one who graduated, and I have one who's of college age. And last year, Turd Ferguson, those emails did not stop coming. They already knew I had a kid of age. They were already pushing me to fill out all those forms, and college is expensive. And that kid wants to be a doctor. So, of course, I was filling out those forms. You gave your information to the government? Guess what, guys? They already have my information. It's called the IRS. They already have all my information. And I assume I popped up on a few federal databases from time to time. So, yeah, I don't think it's a way to get your information. I think it's a way to get your kids. I think what they want is they want more kids going to college because that way more kids are being indoctrinated by the woke college professors. I really do think that's what it is. Would I think there might be something more sinister here? If I find out states are getting the information from your finances, then yeah, maybe I'll revisit this. I do have some calls out. I will find out if they are getting that information so I can give it to you. Got a little bit more research to do on the subject. But for right now, that's what I'm thinking. You agree, you disagree, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, looks like the Seattle Times is finally admitting that yours truly is a journalist. Article just came out, and I'm loving every minute of this. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless. Streaming at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, you got to text us right now because I don't know what's going on with the phone company, but for some reason our phone lines aren't working. So text us at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Democrats are doing their absolute best to stop people from enforcing the law, but there's no surprise there. You know what is a surprise? The Seattle Times, which is currently funding the lawsuit to stop me and Brandy Cruz and Jonathan Cho from having press passes claiming we're not journalists, just called me a journalist. I kid you not. This is delicious. This is so delicious. So actually, I got to eat a little crow here, and I'll tell you why. A little behind the scenes for you. I have tried. I am still on the Seattle Times email list. I still get their emails. And normally what happens is when you're on the Seattle Times email list, they send you the headline and a chunk of the article. That's what you get in the email. So I see Starbucks shifting, quote unquote, center of gravity worries Washington officials. And I go, center of gravity? That's the PDR I got. That's the public disclosure request I got back about the meeting prep notes from Turd Ferguson's office with Starbucks, where he was trying to convince them not to leave after the company had already announced they were moving to Nashville. And I see notes prepared for an April meeting between Governor Bob Ferguson and Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol suggest the governor was doing some damage control around Starbucks establishing a new office in Tennessee. And I'm thinking to myself, no way they cited me. No way they reached out to Ferguson's office or whatever it was. No way they cited me. Man, I was wrong. It's not often I'm wrong, but Kevin was making fun of me a little bit about this during the break because, yeah, they actually cited me, but how they cited me is a lot of fun. Here we go. This is by Paul Roberts, Seattle Times business reporter. It says right here, since Starbucks' March announcement of plans for a corporate office in Nashville, Tennessee, the company has tirelessly declared that Seattle remains its global headquarters. But top Washington officials were clearly worried about the optics of Starbucks' Nashville move, particularly given the layoffs and other cuts that have already diminished its presence in the state. Quote, the Nashville acquisition and continued Washington layoffs and closures continue to raise public questions about whether Starbucks is gradually shifting its center of gravity, noted on an April 10th briefing on Starbucks by Governor Bob Ferguson's staff. Of particular note, the head count at Starbucks Center in the Sodo neighborhood is currently about 2,800, down 25% from around 3,750 in 2023, according to the briefing, which was obtained by Seattle's KVI News Radio and posted on Monday. Timeout. Can we fact check the Seattle Times a little bit here? Hey, look, you want to call us KVI News Radio? We'll take it. Out of morbid curiosity here. When you Google KVI, what comes up? Hang on, we're going to do this right now as an experiment. Does it say KVI News Radio? KVI Radio. Let's just Google that. KVI AM 570 Talk Radio. KVI is a commercial radio station in Seattle, Washington, which airs conservative talk radio format called News Talk 570 KVI. That's what it is, Kevin. That's the Mr. Google. That's what happened. Because I know that when you go to our website, does it say news radio anywhere? KVI, Seattle's conservative talk. Is there an about section here? All right, Kevin, we don't have an about section. We need a mission statement, Kevin. Mr. KVI, get on that. Write a mission statement. Our job at KVI is to make Ari Hoffman look as good as possible. I'm fine with that. I will put my stamp on that. Okay. Now we know where they got that from. But hey, I ain't complaining. What I find funny about this is the lawsuit against me, the lawsuit that I did against the Washington State Legislature and against the Washington Capital Correspondents Association for the fact that they wouldn't give me and Brandy Cruz and Jonathan Cho and many others press passes. Their big claim is I am not a journalist. That lawsuit is being funded by the Seattle Times. Thank you. What's your name, reporter? Paul Roberts. Thank you, Paul Roberts. Appreciate it. I appreciate that. Seattle KVI News Radio. That's great. Thank you. I do appreciate that. You just gave me some evidence in my case. I screenshotted that. I put it into the Wayback Machine. I sent that off to my lawyers right away. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. As some Starbucks watchers will have noticed, 2800 isn't that much larger than the 2,000-person staff planned for the 6-story, 250,000 square foot office building, at least in Nashville. The briefing was prepping Ferguson for an April 15th meeting. I love the irony. We're going to talk about taxes on April 15th. An anticipated discussion of the Nashville office as well as the company's concern over taxes and the state's business climate. So far, this is all correct. On Tuesday, Ferguson's office confirmed he met with Nicole on April 15th, but didn't share additional details about what was discussed. You want those? You're going to have to get them from Hoffman. Starbucks wouldn't confirm the figures in the briefing. On Tuesday, a company spokesperson reiterated Starbucks' intent to remain headquartered in Seattle. Guys, we don't believe you anymore. We do not believe you. You are not staying. Maybe you'll keep the mermaid on top of the building and you keep employing one guy who just runs up the pride flag every year. Maybe. They said we remain deeply invested in Washington, where Starbucks was founded more than 50 years ago and continues to maintain its global headquarters. And we're committed to partnering with Washington lawmakers and other stakeholders on solutions that strengthen the state's economy and help Washington thrive. Oh, a little bit of a screw you with a smile there, which is basically, hey, we reached out. We said we wanted to fix this. You said no. Starbucks says the national office will support blah, 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 blah. The coffee giant's lease at the Starbucks Center on Utah Avenue South runs through 2038 with no option for termination, according to a July credit rating report by Morningstar. But some industry experts and Starbucks employees think Nicole now wants to gradually shift more of Starbucks operations to Tennessee under a broader restructuring aimed at shaving costs and boosting growth. Oh, you mean you can't do that in Washington because of policies pushed by the Seattle Times and others? In any case, Starbucks' decision to expand to Tennessee and now its home state has become Exhibit A for local business leaders and commentators critical of what they see as Washington's high-tax, unfriendly business climate. Challenging that perception appears to have been the goal of the April 15th meeting, which came just days before Starbucks publicly shared the size of its Nashville office. No, the announcement of that came beforehand. This was a freakout in response to that. But okay, that's check number one. That's a little bit of a news mistake, but sure. The briefing called the meeting a key opportunity to make the case for why Washington and to gather information to inform your future strategy navigating Starbucks' continued corporate and retail presence. Blah, 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 blah. Scrolling down. Okay. This one here, where they talk about Howard Schultz wanting to leave, Starbucks still has these things. Here we go. It's unclear when Ferguson learned of Starbucks' Nashville plans or whether the April 15th meeting was the first time the two men discussed the move. Can we go to the videotape for a second? So you guys quoted me. You guys cited me. You guys cited these meeting notes I got. Literally in the meeting notes. It said there was a meeting on February 2nd where they discussed all of this and that this was a follow-up to that meeting. Guys, reading comprehension, not hard. Just read what's in front of you. I know it's painful because it's by Ari Hoffman and KVI. I know it's really, really painful. I know you're mad you have to admit you got scooped by me. I know that upsets you. But all the information you're looking for was in a social media post on X. Bet you guys are kicking yourselves for not filing that PDR earlier. We go to the KVI studio line, which is back. The bat phone is back. And we take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's going on?
What's going on is the people finally are going to get a vote on the income tax scam, and I'm gonna vote. I'm so confused by this initiative that I hope that Brian Haywood will simply, instead of buying campaign ads, will very simply send postcards with the proper sponsor ID, please, to every single voter to make clear that voting yes on Initiative 645 is to repeal the income tax, correct?
That's what they did last time too, Joe. And I remember a certain somebody calling my show to argue with me about how they weren't in favor of some of these initiatives. I'm glad you've come around, Joe.
I still support the Climate Commitment Act. I think it's a great bill, and I think it's great to race. I want to thank everybody who voted for the CCA.
Joe, you know I love you, and I know you like it because you think it funds transit. But are your grocery prices more expensive these days?
Yes, I'm happy to bear that sacrifice for our climate.
Are your utility prices more expensive these days?
They're a little more expensive, but that's okay. We're helping protect the climate, and we're doing God's work. And I want to say, God has left the rest of us
what exactly have the numbers shown that we're protecting the climate?
Well, we're having less people drive, and we're having more people fill public transit.
No, Joe. No. I asked you what the numbers said. Can you give me the numbers?
No, I don't have them in front of me.
Wait, hang on. Do you know why you don't have them in front of you? It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Do you know why you don't have them in front of you? Do you know why?
Because we have lazy bureaucrats in Olympia who don't just put them on a website and call it good and smoke a cigar and go watch Top Gun Maverick 100 times.
So you're phrasing it a little differently than I would. I wouldn't say lazy. I would say intentionally. They're in the middle of a lawsuit right now with the Washington Policy Center where they're refusing to release those numbers. Joe, why would you refuse to release those numbers?
I would just release the damn numbers already, and I tell everyone to ride the bus. I tell everybody, hey, man, it's great. We have safe public transit now, and Claudia Badass Ucci got the job done. And also, Brad Haywood did, it's going to do great saving us from this income tax grab that wasted valuable legislative time. I mean, one of the bills that got killed for this greedy tax was a bill to keep public servants like legislators, prosecutors, mayors safe from harassment, and that bill got killed on this income tax greed.
Well, Joe, I'm glad we're on the same page, sort of. I'll take what I can get. I'll take the wins I can get in Washington State. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Now, meanwhile, updating our top story of the day. You guys heard about this craziness in the U.S. Attorney's Office? So earlier today, Roger Rogoff, who was appointed by a bunch of judicial hacks here in Washington, showed up and said, I'm the captain now. He said, I'm the new U.S. attorney. Why did he think he got to do this? Our friend Brandy Cruz laid this all out in a social media post. Federal judges here in Washington appointed their own U.S. attorney since Democrats blocked President Donald Trump's pick, Neil Floyd. The choice of the judges, Democrat Roger Rogoff, showed up this morning at 8 a.m. to try and take over the office. 30 minutes later, the White House called him and told him he was fired. Okay, let's dig into this a little bit more so you understand all the nuance. Neil Floyd is President Donald Trump's nominee to serve as U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Washington. He is continuing to lead the office while awaiting Senate confirmation. Floyd, why would they not confirm this guy? He has nearly 3 decades of legal and public service experience. He previously served as assistant U.S. attorney in the District of Columbia, prosecuted violent crime, white-collar fraud, child exploitation, immigration offenses, and identity theft. After moving to Western Washington in 2009, he served as assistant chief counsel for U.S. immigration. Immigration twice. That's why. Before appointed as immigration judge in 2018. That's why they're stopping him. Most recently served as special counsel for immigration enforcement in the FBI's Office of General Counsel, advising FBI leadership and the Justice Department on immigration enforcement. Floyd also served in the U.S. Army Judge Advocate General Corps, including deployment to Iraq during Operation Inherent Resolve, and retired from the Army Reserve in 2023 with the rank of lieutenant colonel. Despite those qualifications, Senate Democrats from Washington are holding up his confirmation. Under current Judiciary Committee policy, both Washington senators, Patty Murray and Maria Cantwell, must return these things called blue slips before the committee will typically move forward with a hearing on a nominee. Now, what these things are, basically giving your home state a chance to go, hey guys, we know something you don't. You really shouldn't appoint this guy. But instead, they're being abused because they don't like Donald Trump. They're withholding their blue slips. Now, this isn't law. The Senate could ignore these things anytime they want and change the rules and procedures anytime they won't. But for some reason, Senator Chuck Grassley, the Republican from Iowa, is refusing to do so. You don't have to follow these things. You don't actually have to do that. The blue slip process is not required by the Constitution or federal law. So now we're stuck with it. The confrontation stems from a provision of federal law governing vacancies in U.S. attorney positions. A July 8th letter from Chief U.S. District Judge David Estudillo to acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche informed the Justice Department that the court intended to appoint Rogoff effective July 15th. The letter cites 28 U.S.C. 546D, which allows a federal district court to appoint an interim U.S. attorney after an attorney general's acting appointment expires following 120 days, with the interim serving until a presidential nominee is confirmed by the Senate. Stop. Wait. So because the judges pulled this stunt, and because the Democrats pulled this stunt, and they appointed Rogoff as the U.S. attorney for 30 minutes, 30 whole minutes, that means there was a break in Neil Floyd's tenure. If there's a break in Neil Floyd's tenure, does that mean the clock starts on another 120 days? So the Democrats just helped Trump's nominee stay in the position, even though they're trying to stop him from being in the position. That's a legal question. I think we should reach out to the office and ask. So now they're saying that they want this guy Rogoff. Who is this guy Rogoff? He was a King County prosecutor, supervising assistant U.S. attorney, King County Superior Court judge, and director of the Washington Office of Independent Investigations. So it sounds like Neil Floyd is way more qualified than this guy. But more than that, former Governor Jay Inslee appointed Rogoff to the King County Superior Court in 2013. I see here. So Jay Inslee doesn't appoint anybody who doesn't agree with him 110%. So now we know who this guy is. And notice he doesn't have any of that immigration experience that Neil Floyd has. So basically what's going on right here, right now, is they want somebody who's not going to enforce immigration law. You remember when we had Neil Floyd on the show a few months ago? I went to his office. I interviewed him. He told us a story about how he was supposed to meet to discuss deporting violent convicted felons from Washington who are illegal aliens. And he was supposed to have this meeting with Katie Wilson and Nick Brown and Bob Ferguson, and the whole crew showed up to ambush him and refused to do so, claiming that they weren't going to violate Washington sanctuary laws, which are in violation of federal immigration laws. This is what it's about. It's about immigration. It is about immigration. That's what this whole thing is about. And basically, the Democrats want somebody who's not going to enforce immigration law, who's not going to prosecute immigration cases. We know that Neil Floyd has actually had to deal with the Democrats trying to stop him from enforcing immigration law. And we know that they actually were successful in shutting down cameras which were at the border, which were used to check license plates. For a while, we weren't able to do that because the Democrats, like Nick Brown and Bob Ferguson, got in the way of that. Neil Floyd had to find a way around that. He was talking to us about that during the interview. So what is this really about? This is about immigration. They want illegal immigrants in Washington. They don't want to get rid of violent felons, no matter how violent they are, no matter if they're murderers, rapists. They don't care. What they want instead is they want the violent offenders here in Washington and will do anything to keep them here. This is who they are. Look, as we played before, this is what Pramila Jayapal wants. She said it openly. Here's what she said.
And I take this back to some of the first bills they put on the floor last year. I remember whipping like crazy, including, frankly, on our side around Laken Riley. And I said the plan here is to take away all due process for immigrants, because that's what that bill did. That's what a series of bills that they put on the floor after that did, is they said, we're just going to get rid of due process for crime after crime after crime, or alleged crime after crime after crime.
See, she's admitting that what she wants is she wants the illegal aliens to stay here, even if they're not citizens. She wants them to be subject to our legal system that we give to citizens, and doesn't care at all about the people they kill. She's not fighting for the rights of the victims of these illegal aliens. She's fighting for the illegal aliens. This whole thing is about immigration. I'm going to see if I can get U.S. Attorney Neil Floyd on the show. We'll see if we can get him back so we can discuss all this insanity out of their office. Speaking of insanity, up next, my friends, more crime here in Washington. So why isn't more being done to combat it? Oh, you think the Democrats just don't like enforcing the law? Probably. Give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to head on over to KVI.com. You can see new articles. You can sign up to become a KVI insider. That way you find out about news and events. And for our friends out in Bremerton, I know I missed some of you out at the Bremerton Air Show, so I am talking to the promotions department about trying to work out a listener event in Bremerton. We have a few other listener events coming up. Give you all the details on them. So this article from the Center Square. Apparently, a Seattle restaurant owner has reduced his hours because of crime concerns. Now, this tracks. When Kevin and I went to McStabby's yesterday, we found out that McStabby's closes at 5. They are not open late. McStabby's closes at 5 o'clock because the workers don't want to be down there when the zombies come out. It's like I Am Legend. You know, Will Smith can go around in the daytime, but the night walkers, the day walkers, whatever they are, they come out at night, right?
Yeah, well, and the other thing, too, is they're sending a crew down there 3 times a day to squeegee the sidewalk, disinfect it, and hose it down. I mean, you keep that thing open till 10 o'clock, midnight. I mean, how many times do they have to send someone down there to clean all that up?
And then you got to pay overtime.
Yeah.
Because now you're talking about 10 o'clock at night. And that's a lot of bleach, by the way. Whatever that cleaning solution they were using, that's a lot of bleach you're going through.
The sad thing is that this keeps people from getting delicious lukewarm nuggets and barely hot fries. So.
Yes. Did you not enjoy the lunch that I bought you, Kevin? Did you not enjoy that mediocre hamburger and those fries?
Yeah, I mean, it was free. So, you know, there's that.
It's so funny how I have built it up in my mind as such a big deal because I can't have it. Because I keep kosher, I can't have it. The only time I ever get kosher McDonald's is when I go to Ben Gurion Airport in Israel. You land in that airport. There are kiosks everywhere because they know every Jew's like, give me Mickey D's. So you can have the same mediocre hamburger that all the non-Jews have and the same lukewarm fries.
And then you come back and you go, hey, I went to that McDonald's, the kosher one. I don't get it. I don't get it. I was like, no, you do get it. That's it. It's garbage.
Kevin, we've been working together for what, 5-6 years now? And every time I go to Israel, because it's like, you know, I go once a year to visit my kids and stuff, I come back here and I go, had that McDonald's. Just as mediocre as it was last time. Yep. Yeah, built it up in my head. Okay, is it just me? Burger King was always better. I remember the kosher Burger King, but whatever. That's just me. Anyway, Vin Zhao is severely reducing the hours at his Seattle restaurant in Chinatown International District because of concerns about crime, drug dealing, and homelessness. He says it's keeping customers away. He says that car break-ins have been an issue in the past. Open-air drug dealing can be an issue. He says so far the customers haven't been attacked, but you have the crime. Who wants to go out if you know your windows are going to get broken into? There is a karaoke bar. There is a karaoke bar that my wife and I have not been back to because, and I don't want to diminish the bar, which I'm not going to say their name, but the last time we went there, our car got broken into. And not just that, everybody's car on the block got broken into. Now, why take the risk? I'm not going to pay for the Uber. What, paying for an Uber here in Washington is $1 gajillion. So I'm not going to lay out that kind of money to go to a karaoke bar. I'm just going to find another place to go. And that was our karaoke bar. That was the place where we always went. For those of you who don't know, the K in KVI stands for karaoke because we're all real big on karaoke around here. That was the place where we used to go with our friends. And we just don't go to that place no more. I guess me singing I'm Too Sexy was just one time too many for everybody, and that was just it. But if the car's going to get broken into, you don't want to go to that bar anymore, which means that bar has now lost our business. We don't go to that part of town as much anymore. So that's a business that's now suffering because my car got broken into. That's exactly what's happening to this guy. He said car break-ins have been an issue in the past. Open-air drug dealing can be a problem outside his South Jackson Street restaurant, along with homeless encampments. On July 9th, he closed his Jayapal seafood house on weekdays because business had dropped to a trickle over the last several days at South Jackson location. The restaurant was open for lunch and dinner every day except for Wednesday. Hours are now restricted to 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday for the restaurant, which has been open for a decade. Even then, he said he's not sure there'll be enough customers to stay in business. I had many jobs in the food industry when I was younger. Do you know what your 2 busiest times are? Lunch and dinner. Lunch and dinner are your 2 busiest times. If you're not open for one of those times, but you still have to pay your Seattle rent, and you still have to pay all your Seattle taxes, and you still have to pay all your Seattle regulations and health inspectors and everything else that come down, well, now you're not going to make as much money, and now you're in trouble. Now you're in trouble. He said, I don't think it's going to last. He said he believes the perceptions of crime are as much of a deterrent to his business as real crime. In addition to the drug dealing, he said homeless encampments scare people. Well, yeah, they do. He says it's unsightly. Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson announced last month that the city is launching an effort to dismantle open-air drug markets and curb chronic crime in the South Jackson area. But we haven't seen any results of that. In fact, Jonathan Cho was out there just a couple days ago.
You're like have your pants down. You're putting all this easy cheese on the ground. Come on, man. Look at this. This little basement entrance is now turned into a drug den.
One of our major anchor restaurants has closed. That's Jayapal. We used to have many banquets here. I had many dinners here. It was a place for community to gather and to celebrate. So it's very sad to hear that the owners focusing their efforts elsewhere outside of the CID.
Why? Do you know why?
We're right next to Jonathan Jackson.
So it's due to all the open-air drug use and crime. You guys are smoking fentanyl on private property.
Yeah, they're literally smoking fentanyl out there. A guy has his pants down. Gee, I wonder why people aren't going to the restaurant no more, right?
Yeah, fentanyl, whatever. The egregious thing about that cut of audio is that he's just spilling easy cheese on the ground.
What a waste.
That's liquid gold. What is this guy doing? He must be high.
Must be, because otherwise, why would you spill the easy cheese on the ground? Very good, Kevin. Very, very good. So that was Tanya Wu. You heard talking to Jonathan Cho, former Seattle City Council member. And, look, she's called it like it is. She's been a champion for Chinatown, the International District, but there's not that many people left in the Chinatown International District. You know what? Maybe I should go do another Doom Loop tour. I haven't been out on the Doom Loop tour since I went out with Jonathan Cho and Andrea Suarez before the World Cup. Maybe I should see if it has come back to form already. My guess is most likely yes. Up next, my friends, Democrats are boycotting a hearing on fraud up on Capitol Hill. Could it be because they're involved in it? Give you all the juicy details and the awesome audio when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. You want more of Lars? You can get more of Lars on Friday when he joins us for Lars Unleashed at 5:30 on most Fridays when he's available. So, yeah, that's some good news there. Some other entertaining news is the Democrats, they're not hiding the ball at all anymore. You heard what Pramila Jayapal said earlier about defending illegal aliens, not defending U.S. citizens. Well, Democrat Senator Elisa Slotkin, she said this about the Save America Act, which is basically giving away the game.
The other thing that we blocked yesterday was the SAVE Act, right? Which was literally allow this administration to rig our democracy so that it would be hard for any Democrat in any state to win any election. And disenfranchise all married women in the meantime, by the way. It just, you'd have to show your birth certificate at the polls if you have a married name.
Okay. Enough of that. That is just, let's stop with that nonsense, shall we? Let's stop with that. That's just not true. But you're admitting that Democrats would never win another election again. Could it be because you have illegal aliens voting for you? Could it be? And that you know it? Could it be? Today, Nick Shirley and James O'Keefe were testifying before Congress. They were testifying on fraud. James O'Keefe was more there to testify about voter fraud. So we'll get to Nick Shirley's financial fraud in a minute, but here's what James O'Keefe said he found on the streets of Los Angeles.
We also found next ballot petitioners asking homes to sign in other people's names. We recorded over the shoulder one petitioner who took out his phone to access an online database to pull voter rolls and addresses. Quote, "I have an Idaho address," said the voter. The petitioner says, "I'm going to give you an address to write. Your name is Robert." Another says, "I'm giving you a new name." So he visited the residence of those people who were disenfranchised. One of the names was Vicky Walker. The homeowner at that address said for 9 years he received election mail in the name of this Vicky Walker. In fact, he told me he'd received so many ballots in the name of Vicky Walker, he named his cat Vicky Walker. We returned to ask for comment from the petitioner who was offering drugs in exchange for signatures. The same individual who had threatened us earlier, he grabbed the petitions and hid them in his car.
Now, we covered this video that James O'Keefe released earlier this year, where all this was happening on Skid Row. What, you think it's not happening in Seattle? You think the exact same thing isn't happening in Seattle? Likely it is. We just need the video to actually show it. Where's Jonathan Cho? We'll send him down there in his flip-flops. We'll have him go interview some people about registering voters in the homeless encampments. We'll ask Andrew Suarez to start asking people about it. So what's happening is there's proof that this stuff is going on. People have been charged for it federally. Why is nobody getting charged locally? When you're doing this kind of stuff, there are state and federal charges. Why are there no state charges?
So this is a completely nonpartisan, non-political issue. Mayor Karen Bass, the LADA, and the governor of California did not criticize me. They actually put statements out saying this is outrageous and needs to be exposed.
So what's happened
since the Department of Justice is indicted, but nobody in the state of California has yet arrested or prosecuted these people.
And what's Gavin Newsom done?
Put out a statement condemning the stuff that we exposed in the tape. That's it.
So doesn't he have investigation authority?
He does in the state of California.
Doesn't Karen Bass?
She does.
And is it against the law?
It is. It's a state crime, fraudulently putting someone else's name on the California ballot petition.
So why is it being investigated? You know why. You know why. Well, apparently, Gavin Newsom thinks securing elections is corruption. Said so earlier today.
This was all after trying to purge our voting rolls. Had we not sued, that would have happened. This guy is not screwing around. That's the playbook on the other side. What's Thursday night's primetime speech all about? It's part of the playbook. To cast doubt, anxiety, to set up the terms of the debate that will occur in and around next year's elections. We will see masked men in and around those elections. We'll see the intimidation of the voting strategies. We've seen it on vote by mail, suggesting somehow voting by mail, as the senator rightfully suggests, somehow that is corruption in plain sight.
Well, literally, it's happening in your state. Literally, people have been charged for it in your state. Why are you not charging them for it? Why do the feds have to do it? Why are you refusing to do so? You know, it's a real shame there weren't more Democrats in the hearing. It's funny. They actually went looking for the Democrats during this hearing today, and here's what happened.
Senator Scott.
Chairman, wouldn't a Democrat go next since the Republican just testified?
If there were a Democrat here, yes.
So there's no Democrats present at a hearing about fraud.
There doesn't appear to be a great deal of interest across the aisle.
Do you remember there was a brief moment, a really brief moment, when every media outlet would cover fraud? Do you remember that? You couldn't avoid it because even the Democrats, it was so rampant they were forced to issue statements. Now they realized it backfired on them and made them look bad. So now they're not even going to show up for it. Why? Because they might be involved in it. Here's Senator Josh Hawley.
Keith Ellison, that guy, after overlooking $250 million in fraud, he took $10,000 in campaign contributions from the very people who were committing the fraud, who came to see him in his office, asked him to please get state investigators off of their backs, which he did, asked him to shut down the investigations, which he helped with, offered to give him money, which he accepted. I mean, I think that's the answer as to why can't any of these people find the fraud? Because they're getting paid by the fraudsters.
How is Keith Ellison not in jail yet? Really, how is he not in jail yet? They got this guy dead to rights on all this. Instead, what do the Democrats do? What do the Democrats do? They try to pass laws to go after the people who are exposing the fraudsters. Here's what Nick Shirley had to say.
You mentioned the Stop Nick Shirley Act. What is that? I mean, can you describe that in greater detail?
Yeah, so that's a bill that's been created by Mia Bonta, the wife of the Attorney General of California. And the official title is AB 2624, and it's to make it essentially illegal to expose and to film outside of immigration support service providers. That means any entity that provides services to illegal migrants, whether that be healthcare or legal fees. If I were to go out and film a video in front of one of these locations, perhaps an NGO like Churla that's received over $80 million from the government, and they give me a piece of paper and they say, hey, you cannot publish that video. If that bill passes, it'll be illegal for me to.
So it really ought to be renamed the Protect Medicaid Fraudster Act.
Yeah, that's really what it is. I literally wrote an op-ed on this for the New York Post just a couple months ago. Here, I'm going to quote me. I'm pretty smart sometimes. Up and down the West Coast, blue state lawmakers have leaped to respond by actively working to make it harder for journalists like me to do our jobs and expose fraud connections to daycare centers, hospices, home health care businesses, and more. In California, Democrats are pitching AB 2624, dubbed the Stop Nick Shirley Act, with claims it's a safety measure to protect immigrants and social service workers from harassment. But media watchdogs say it and the Democrats' efforts in other state capitals constitute a crackdown on the independent and citizen journalists who are exposing fraud in government, and warn that's just the start of a trend that could spread nationwide. Shirley's independent reporting on empty daycares like the now infamous Quality Leering Center helped expose $9 billion plus in public funding provided to non-existent child care centers, food programs, senior services in Minnesota alone. His work and tens of millions of YouTube views inspired other reporters to hit the streets across multiple states with cameras and stacks of public documents. California's law would criminalize the online sharing of photos or personal information of immigrant service providers if it's done for the purposes of quote-unquote harassment. And guess who gets to define what the harassment is? The bill leaves those terms undefined and open-ended so Democrats can claim that Nick Shirley is harassing people. So Ari Hoffman is harassing people. So Jonathan Cho is harassing people. So Carlene Johnson is harassing people. So Kristen Magg is harassing people. That's what they want to claim. A law like this would expose any investigative journalist to ceaseless accusations of harassment and incitement simply for sharing publicly available information. So when it used to be in the mid-90s to late 90s, early 2000s to about 2010, when news outlets used to have the Jesse Jones go out and investigate what's going on, the problem solvers, and all these different things, now that would be illegal because you claim you're harassing somebody that you're trying to get a story out of. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into your beautiful evening commute. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. We don't normally get good news from the Department of Homeland Security, but I got a whole bunch of it here from these guys. So every day I get a press release from the Department of Homeland Security, worst of the worst. These are the ones we've arrested, and it's rapists and pedophiles and murderers. It's awful. It's awful. It's awful stuff. But I love when they send out the ones called the best of the best. ICE is nice. The National Immigration Customs Enforcement. I like that one. So according to Homeland Security, the United States Department of Homeland Security commends the bravery of a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officer, Kirtland Sawyer, who performed life-saving medical care on a motorist who was involved in a serious car crash in Missouri. On July 11th, ICE law enforcement officer Kirtland Sawyer of St. Louis, Missouri, sub-office, was driving home from duty when he witnessed a collision between a vehicle and a tractor-trailer outside Festus, Missouri. Oh, could have been Festivus, Missouri. That would have been fun. He immediately sprang into action and delivered life-saving medical care to the injured driver, including placing a tourniquet on the driver's arm to stop life-threatening bleeding. Officer Sawyer stayed on the scene until emergency medical technicians arrived to provide further medical aid. This wasn't just a collision, my friends. It looks like it's a Chevy SUV, and it's sandwiched under the tractor trailer, under the giant cargo trailer. It looks like somebody was trying to do the thing Brian O'Connor does in the Fast and Furious. Slide that little sedan right on under that thing. That don't work in real life, guys. That don't work in real life. It just doesn't. I don't know if that's what the driver was attempting, but that's what it looks like. In fact, the whole front of the car is gone. All I see is the back of the sucker intact. Quote, ICE law enforcement officer Kirtland Sawyer immediately delivered life-saving medical care to the driver who was involved in a serious collision with the tractor trailer. That is the most underrated way of describing this accident. This is horrific looking. Some of these other cases we've done, people have died from accidents like this. Officer Sawyer is a hero, said Acting Assistant Secretary Lauren Biss. Our officers are the best. When they see someone in need, they don't hesitate to spring into action to help. If you see an ICE law enforcement officer, thank them for their service to our nation. By the way, I do that when I go to the airport. I also thank them because it is the most efficient time I have ever had going to the airport. Kevin? See, Kevin's nodding. He knows. I have never gone through security as fast as I have since ICE got sent out to that airport. It is a machine. It is. I don't have to worry as much anymore. Watch, now it's going to be all screwed up when I go out for Vegas or whatever it is. Oh, by the way, I have to put in the days I'm going to Vegas. That's a whole nother thing. It's a day. Don't worry about it. Anyway, other recent examples of ICE officers heroically saving lives include, in July, an ICE officer in Texas rendered life-saving medical care to a 14-year-old who had jumped out of a moving vehicle and was unconscious on the side of the road. Why would you do that, you dumb child? In June, ICE officers in Milwaukee rescued a woman who was trapped in her car after another car ran a red light and struck it, flipping the car on its side. In June, an ICE officer in Tampa, Florida, rescued a 6-year-old child who was floating unconscious in a pool. Officer jumped into the pool to remove the child from the water, after which he rendered life-saving CPR until the child regained consciousness. Okay, reading these stories here, and there's a lot more. Reading these stories, we need to bring back cops, but we need to do it with ICE instead. And the opening won't be bad boys, what you gonna do? It's gonna be ice, ice, baby. Din, 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 din. I'd watch that.
Yeah, well, some of those videos coming out of ICE might not be so great for TV. I don't think they'll make it up there.
I don't think they'll make. Well, come on. I don't remember anybody ever getting shot on cops.
That's what I'm saying. Start throwing ICE there.
Hey, I would watch it. I'd watch it. Hey, you know me and my snuff videos.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Sadly, you wouldn't be the only one.
That's true. I love my snuff videos. I really, really do. Yes. For those of you who don't know, around the office, it's always like, come here, check this out. Come here. I promise it's not a snuff video. Oh, wait, that's a dude, not a car door. Holy cow. In March, an ICE officer who was supporting TSA operations at JFK International Airport helped save the life of a 1-year-old child who was experiencing a medical emergency. The officer began performing the Heimlich maneuver, and after a few seconds, the child started breathing again. EMS personnel arrived on the scene with medical equipment to further monitor and reassess the child. The child was reassessed and determined to be healthy enough to fly. In February, off-duty ICE law enforcement agents saved the life of a 4-year-old child who was unresponsive from drowning in a hotel swimming pool. Excuse me. The agents performed CPR for several minutes. Local police and emergency medical services arrived shortly thereafter. and transported the child to a local medical center for further medical care. Thanks to this life-saving care and quick action, the child regained consciousness. Okay, this is just a sampling of the stories that ICE has. This is all huge stuff. This is all great stuff. Yes, I would watch the you-know-what out of this TV show. Wouldn't watch Little House of the Prairie. Wouldn't watch MASH. But I will watch the ICE show. ICE, baby. Don't forget to follow us over on social media so that way, even when the show is not going on, you get to see all the news and information. Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, The Hofffather over on X, and Ari Hoffman Official over on YouTube, The Ari Hoffman Show over on YouTube. That's going to do it for us today, my friends, but fear not, because we will be back tomorrow with more exciting stories and more exciting guests. And also, here's something else for you. I don't know if you noticed, but from 6 to 7, you get the stories you may have missed earlier with the Ari Hoffman Show Reloaded. So, my friends, tune in for that. We'll see you back here tomorrow. You've been listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.